Okay. Good evening. It is Friday, February 6th, and I am here again with Tali. And it's been a minute since we have been here and chatting.
It's been a hot minute. Yeah, like
Yeah.
something like a month, maybe.
Yeah, something like a month or about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, a month, something along those lines. So, yeah, how have things been?
Things have been good. I've just been really busy with work, which is unfortunate because I would prioritize my my streaming career used very loosely. I would have loved to stream more, and I feel like there was a lot to talk about, but yeah, I just been super busy at work, which always triggers me a little bit back to when I first started streaming. Not that I'm a streamer, right? But when I first kind of entered this little online community, and there was so much pushback, right? Because I was like the Trump voter. I remember there was like a gaggle of chatters who were like talking to each other and just so convinced of my like generational wealth. And they were saying like, I see the times that she's on, and when she's in chats, like she obviously doesn't work a normal job, like just like all these assumptions about my life. And it's like, it's true, I don't work a normal job. I work probably way more than all of you people who are talking about me. But anyway, that's a side note to say things are good. I'm good. I'm really happy.
And I'm on Hawaii time, right? So
yes, that too, right? I'm literally in a very different time zone from these idiots. But how have you been, Kay?
I've been okay. It has been cold. It is very cold. I am in Canada, and it's February, and that's just, it's cold and dark and fucking lots of snow, but slowly the days are getting longer. It'll, thaw in about a month or so. So it's like I see the light. You know what I mean? Just holding on for that, because it's just winter's hard. Winter's hard on the East Coast. In the Northeast.
Yeah, it's
so.
I don't miss that, certainly, the winter. I do like winter in theory, but moving to Hawaii, I realized just like how real seasons are, and how they can impact your mood and things like this. But this is probably a dumb question, but so has it been like particularly cold, like the way that New York has been kind of, although I guess you're not on the
colder than average, right?
Oh, you are on the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm in the East Coast. I'm above New York. I'm in, like New York's that's like 7 hours north of me or something like that. Okay. So it's been the last 2 weeks or the last 10 days. It was particularly cold. It was like minus, I don't know, like 20, minus 25, which is like on average, which is colder than it usually is. I mean, you get a spell, but like consistently day after day. You know what I mean? It's just a little much. So yeah, but it's I think it's coming down. I think New York is also like not as bad as it was, but I guess I don't know too much about the story, but I heard like, the warmth of collectivism isn't working very well in New York.
So. That's such a shame. I was so sure.
Who would have thought? Yeah, who would have thought?
I was so sure collectivism was here to save us.
Leaving people to sleep outside instead of sweeping them up. Who could have predicted they would die out?
That's
outdoors?
Right. There's something. They're up to something like 17 deaths, I think.
Yeah. Which is just ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always hard to know like how much is just not even social media manipulation, but just like outsized attention because people are sharing on social media. But I'm just seeing a lot of photos of trash piled up on the side of the road. So, collectivism hasn't been good to New York City, it seems. Yeah. But speaking of the weather, this is a very lame tie-in, but I think it actually works. Obviously, Kay and I, we're going to talk about all the, recent events and stuff like that. But the ICE protests, as they're being called, have been weighing on us both as former protesters. And there is actually something to be said. I'll only spend a minute on it because it's corny, but on the weather. There was 100%. There was so much ink spilled about how the Summer of Love was only able to happen really because it was summer. Some people were, off, especially the young people were off of school, and it was warm outside. And so it was something to do, right? Instead of like going to hang out at your friend's house or at the park, you guys would just go together down the road to the protest. And there's definitely something to that. I don't want to undermine that. And I think we'll talk about it more, just like the sort of social scene that protests can become if this is if this is your life. But there really is something to be said about how many people are showing up in like the frigid cold, right? When the roads are iced over and they're kind of unsafe conditions to even really be outside for too long. Now, people on the left take that as it shows, just how important this kind of mission is, and how we're all agree with them, is it shows how dedicated these people are. And I think a perverse way. I think they've been led astray, basically. But people are really out there, and it's not just the convenience of, summer in Minnesota or summer in New York City or whatever.
Yeah, no. The weather, the Summer of Love only happened because it was summer, and it happened because everybody had been like home.
Cooped up.
And you weren't allowed to do anything or go anywhere, right. But you were allowed to protest, right?
That's right. The doctor said that the transmission rates were different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
You were in a crowd of 50,000 people, somehow packed all together. Yeah. That was okay. So no, there definitely, I think it would be absolute madness if it were if we were a month forward, like if it were March or even April, the numbers would be even higher than what they are now. Not to say that they're not high. And I think a lot of people are going around in cars. I think that's why they're probably doing maneuvers the way they are. And they have to become extremely well organized, I think.
Yes.
In part because of that, right? Because you can't it's a lot harder to, follow people around in the middle of the winter, I'm guessing, in Minnesota than in the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I want to talk about the organization and the planning. I'm just going to respond to two things in the chat. So Japan Girl, I don't know what the actual protest numbers are. I highly doubt that it's as high as the Summer of Love, but I think it's just sort of undeniable. There's a lot of people, even these like school protests and walkouts, it's not every school, but it really is happening, right? A lot of people are sort of activated by this. I mean, it made it to the Grammys. Not that it takes so much to get celebrities to virtue signal, but it's like obviously a real cultural moment. And these people are organized, and I'm hoping we can talk about that a little bit, because I think that also it doesn't. I say none of this, and I'm sure the same applies to Kay. We don't say any of this to like put more blame, especially on like Renee Good or Alex Preddy, right? They are victims of this, and I think they are partially victimized by their compatriots, their comrades, right? Who are kind of whipping them up into this frenzy. But it's important, the narrative, and maybe some people have changed their tune, the more honest interlocutors out there, but the narrative was like, this is your everyday soccer mom, this is your veterans nurse. These are just people who, they just look around, they see this injustice, and they feel compelled to get out there and do something. When the reality is, they're all in these signal chats. They're all in these group chats that are giving people clear instructions. We found out like that day from a bystander, or I guess a protester on Renee Good's side, that no, her car was basically leading the caravan. Like she was one of the leaders of that part of the protest. And I know like Cam Higbee, I believe, like got into some of the signal chats and was exposing that. But that really brought me all the way back to the Summer of Love, when I was out protesting every day. The nights that they had occupied City Hall, this was in Manhattan, I was sleeping at City Hall overnight. And I lived on Long Island, and I had access to a car, which made me very valuable. And so I was put on jail support. And jail support is protesters who hang out at the local jail, at the county jail, to support protesters who have been arrested, essentially.
Yeah.
Now, that means like emotional support. It means like I would be always like fundraising money to buy like food and drinks and like cigarettes and stuff to give to people when they got out, and then I would be driving them home, driving them to wherever they lived, just putting random strangers in my car. And a sort of side note of this is like my vivid memory is like the overwhelming majority of people that I was driving home were not protesters. We were just at the jail. And so anyone who was coming out, we were providing our services to. And so I was mostly just driving home, like presumably like petty criminals, basically people who had nothing to do with these protests. There's this irony, and it's very cringe to talk about, but like most of the people I was driving home were Black. Make of that what you will, right? We know that there are like correlations here with arrests and crime rates and stuff like that. But I just think of like now with hindsight, I think about what a dangerous position I put myself into. I was driving by myself. These people who just got out of jail, I knew nothing about them. I didn't know their last name. They could have lied to me about their first name. And I'm putting these people in my car and like spending my money on feeding them and stuff like that. And I remember too, my dad being so upset with me one of the nights that I was trying to leave to drive into the city to do this. And I just like ignored. I fought with him how important this is, you know, with all the self-righteousness that I could muster. And he let me go. I mean, I was an adult, right? I was like 26 or something. But just really like how much risk I put myself into. And I think, again, like the people on the left don't want to, I guess, acknowledge that, you know, they're so they want this so badly to be a freedom of speech and a First Amendment issue and just like a social justice issue. But it is really, really, really dangerous to go like intentionally. And they have jail support. I was looking through. This is what triggered my memory when I was looking through through Cam Higby's signal chat. Like they have all the same like positions that they would, you know, send people around it. And it was the same thing. You would get like an emoji sort of like next to your name so people would know like what job you were assigned to. And just, the real danger that these people are putting themselves into. And some of them know it also. They know, and they believe that what they're doing is righteous and necessary. Basically, they see it as like a potential self-sacrifice that would be obviously worth it should the time come.
Yeah. A lot of people do know, I think, about like the things like the jail support and all like the, I guess like I want to say the rules, but like the guidelines that these groups lay out for themselves. You know what I mean? A lot of people do know, but then there's other people who are just like joining in who also don't know, or who get, you know, stuff from word of mouth, or it's like one person in the group may know and they may like bring other people, you know, with them. So not everybody's maybe in with this that, you know, with that communication pod, also because I don't know how closely they're vetting people, but sometimes, you know, not everybody's allowed in for whatever reasons, you know? So in a way, like, I don't know how to say it. As though I'm glad they have jail support, but like, at least that's telling me that they're at least hopefully teaching people, like, I don't want to say how to interact with the police or how to be arrested, or at least provide, like, letting them know arrest is a possibility. Like, you need to understand that the probability of getting arrested is there. Like, if you are organizing people like this and you are not letting them know that there is a large probability of interactions with police and with getting arrested, or police agents, whatever, federal law enforcement, ICE, all of them, you know what I mean? Then that is that is a failure, you know, like of that type of organizing, whether I like it or don't like it, or agree with it or not agree with it, like forget that for that. But you really need to like have people who are like psychologically prepared to be arrested and to accept being arrested if you're going to do that, because freaking out and not wanting to be arrested is like like fleeing.
It's dangerous, right? It makes the situation,
gets you fucking killed, right? So
right. No, yeah, and that you make a good point. Just the mere presence of jail support infers like some acknowledgement, at least on behalf of the organizers of these signal groups, that arrest is a possibility. But then we look at someone like Renee Good, and it seems like obviously not everyone there internalized that. And I think again, when I call these people victims, it's like, so there were people like you and I who, when we were doing this, we were like young, and I don't know if you had any kids yet, but like unattached for the most part, I think, or at least I was, right? I mean, I still don't have any kids. I really want a baby. Okay, guys, I hopefully soon, but seeing Renee Good's reaction, obviously, like when you're in the process, it's scary and whatever, and you don't want it to happen. But seeing Renee Good's reaction, she obviously did not internalize the possibility of facing consequences for intervening in this way, and it's really fucked up. It's really.
That's because really fucking wine moms have like decided that they're like fucking punk rock radicals now,
right?
And they have like literally no credentials for it, and like it's like not to be this like holier than thou fucking whatever, but there was something about like growing up as an anarchist in a scene with radicals and anti-authoritarian beliefs my entire life, and surrounding myself in that culture and with people and with different types of activism, you know, that kind of enabled me to make choices of like when and where and how I want to engage with things, that I don't know that people who are taking drastic actions have really been able to think through, or like like you said, like internalize that, and that it's very scary to me to see. And also I think there's part of it is like we say, when we look back at the Summer of Love, I think that people got away with a lot, and there maybe people were arrested, but also in a way it was like
no
the people were ruling the streets, right?
Oh yeah.
More than like law enforcement was in control. And now we're seeing instances where law enforcement is very like, no, we are in fucking control. We are not tolerating this. And I think some people who've had other types of interactions or been allowed to act in very obstructive or destructive ways before are not necessarily prepared for that kind of you know, hardline stance. So
no, it's such a good point. And right, there are several prongs to this. So there's the reality that in 2020, and this is not like speculation, this was prominently in the news at the time, and something that people on the left, myself included, were very proud of, was in all of these blue cities, the is it the city prosecutor, the attorney general? I'm sorry, I'm not very good at my civics here, but and my American government, but they all of them did blanket non-prosecution promises. Basically, they preemptively said that they will not be prosecuting the protesters, and so people would get arrested and they would get processed, but there was no prosecution. So that's it. Nothing was going to hang on your record. You weren't going to have to show up to court and stuff like that. And that was preemptively announced in a bunch of these cities where you had the most of these protests. And when you say the protesters ran the streets, again, it's so fucking cringe. But yes, I would be marching down the streets of Manhattan with a group of people, and we'd be walking right in the middle of the road, not on the sidewalk, right? We are intentionally shutting down traffic. There would be a line of bicyclists in the front and in the back. So they would kind of redirect the cars if necessary, right? To try to protect the pedestrians, but we are walking through the streets, blocking off traffic, and chanting, whose streets are streets, whose streets are streets. So yes, the protesters believe that they run the streets, and they believed for good reason they believed that police were not going to really bother them, and that even if they did get in trouble, that it wasn't going to stick. And then in particular with ICE and Minnesota, they falsely believed, or rather were led astray to believe, that ICE and Border Patrol cannot arrest them. That was something that's been made very clear after several of these videos now, because, and everyone says this, it's like, it's not just that these people think like, I'm not doing anything wrong and therefore you shouldn't be arresting me. They're saying you don't have the right. They're essentially saying you don't have the jurisdiction, and they believe that because that's what they're being told, and that's what's being reinforced. And again, and the people who aren't there are repeating this too. You know, the lefties or Democrats or whoever online are making the same thing. You know, that these ICE agents have no business interacting with citizens, basically. And it's like, well, no, they literally do.
And they are they are not fully aware of the powers that the law enforcement have, and they are mistaken on it. And it's gonna it's like getting people it's like putting people in very bad situations, you know. And I don't know, and there's something like, so I don't know, there's something so funny about like these anarchists. In some way, it's like I got the impression previously that like people think that their proof of like being able to organize these things is like, you know, proof of our ability to like organize ourselves as communities. And I'm like, but this is a disaster. Like, this is like, you know what I mean? It's just like, there's a naivete to it, and it's just like, I don't know, you're organizing something within a structure that already exists that gave you all these things. So I don't know, but it's just all kind of like, none of it, the math doesn't math to me anymore.
No.
You know? So.
No, and that's such a good point too. Everything is just triggering all these memories for me that are so embarrassing. But yes, so you make the point that they're so, these anarchists, right? These like, you know, anti-hierarchical people are so proud of themselves for organizing these events that, like you said, just like they're not reinventing the wheel. They are just like, they're just putting in place systems that someone else developed, you know, before them or whatever. They're working in a microsystem within our system is what they're doing. They've created their own little microsystem. But I remember when, and there's just something so nauseating. Maybe it ties back into the joke you made about the warmth of collectivism, but the way that they use the word community and how much cachet it gives you too. Like, I'm just thinking back to the Don Lemon thing and the woman who organized the protest that he interviews and is friends with, he says, and stuff like that. He introduces her as a community organizer. And that is like, that's like the equivalent of saying like Harvard law grad in a left-wing space. Like, being a community organizer, if you are a Democrat, is something on your resume if you decided that you wanted to go into office or a position of leadership. Being a community organizer, which essentially means creating protests, leading protests, you know what I mean? Is this like very oddly valorized position on the left. But yeah, I remember when
it's like make work jobs though. Like I've seen some of these like organizing. And I'm gonna have I don't know. You're gonna have a thing in a community space, and like 6 people are gonna turn up, and you're gonna do some fucking reading or repurposing or something. I don't know. I don't know, something environmental, maybe. Like I'm just so like, I fucking roll my eyes. Like, come on, it's just that's fine. That's fine that you want to do that. But like, you are not organizing community. You're like organizing a very small group of like your friends. Do you know what I mean? Like, we are not bringing people in together who would not otherwise be in community with each other.
It's a simulacrum of community.
Yes, because it's not community. Because there is no like, there's no way to like reach out to people who are any different from you. You know.
But you know, it feels like community, especially because it feels like you guys are all bound by the most important thing, right?
Yes.
Which is like your virtue and your politics, which don't feel like politics. When you have a social justice politic, it doesn't feel like politics, right? It feels like the most right. And it feels like the most important thing in the entire world at the expense of everything else. Like when I was working on my PhD during the summer of love, and I like up and left for a month to fly to New York because, again, a cringe is it's really too hard to quantify. But I felt like I needed to be on the front lines. Like like my home was erupting, and this cause was so existentially important to me that I needed to like be there. I needed to be in the heat of the action, frankly. It's like the way that I twisted it to think like that I would be more of service essentially if I was in New York. But the reality is I wanted to be closer to the action. I wanted to be where like the most exciting things, and the protests on the side of the road in Hawaii, the BLM protests where 10 people show up, that's not going to make any history books. But if I'm, not that I was thinking, I wasn't thinking so literally about it at that time, but it was just like I felt like a calling in the cringest way possible to be in New York. And there's something that I wanted to say before, but as per usual, my brain's going in a million directions that I just remembered is, so they talk a big game about community, right? And again, with jail support, you're gonna be standing out there with like a blanket and a juice box and a McDouble for this random stranger, but that's gonna bond you guys together. We're taking care of each other. And I remember thinking too, like, because I mentioned in the last episode that we recorded that I was like arrested in college, basically. Everything's fine. It's not on my record. I consider it a false arrest, but whatever. It was extremely traumatizing for me. And I remember when I got out, my friends had no idea where I was. It was the next day basically, and my friends had gone around like hospital to hospital to jail just looking for me. And when I got out of the court after my arraignment the next day, I happened to run into my friends. They were in that courthouse at the time looking for me, and I run and I embrace them and I'm crying. But I wasn't arrested for protesting, so it was like totally separate. I wasn't feeling self-righteous at all. I was just feeling scared and upset. And so in my mind, I'm like, what a wonderful thing to be there to support the people who are getting out of jail. Like if I had been just let out by myself and my friends weren't there, it would have been just even more scary and more isolating. So I'm thinking like, what a beautiful thing. And community, and it's amazing. And we're all so close and we care about the things that matter, and we're not prioritizing profit and blah, 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 blah. But then when on the other hand, they talk about needing bodies. They're not even talking about people. And it kind of goes to what you were saying about, some people are in the signal chat, but those people are bringing their friends, and their friend is bringing their friend who's bringing their boyfriend, who, you know what I mean, who's bringing their daughter. And those people are just bodies. And that's how it was talked about then. And now, again, in the Don Lemon interview with this community organizer, she talks about white bodies to the front. And what a like dehumanizing thing that is. And that is part of every single one of these protests. And apparently it hasn't lost any steam. It's still what they're doing now. You guys are in a group. You're trying to, maybe you're going to be walking to the next corner, or if they're in Minnesota right now, ICE has moved on. You got word from your people who are, in the city over that's where they are. And you're all like, you're planning your next stage, and it's always white people in the front and someone else going, white people in the front. Like it's so it's like a high school club, it's like an extracurricular. We need the white bodies in the front, because if you are in a white body, like it is your job to like layers to be the frontline defense, basically, because the cops are going to come and they're just going to try to grab for the black people, right? That's obviously
the white bodies can take it, like the guy who said last night on Ryan's America could take it. So the white bodies, they can take it.
Yeah, right. Right. And it's your duty. It's your duty. And you're a good person if you do this. And that's the perverse thing too.
But you owe it, for one, to pay back for your past sins. So but that's exactly, but like when I say that guy who said that last night on Ryan Mullally's
liberal club
stream, liberal club, who was saying that America could take it, take what, like, I guess, like, attempts at like being eroded or broken down culturally.
It was essentially open border is what he was arguing for. Yeah. America can and should take any single person.
But the argument behind that is like America, not that America only can take it, it's America should take it. America owes the world to take it. America must pay for its sins by taking it. And I would bet that is the thought process behind it. And that maps on very much the same thing. Like, your white bodies, you can take it. You owe this debt. You go, you know what I mean? There. But on the other hand, like, maybe if community is the word, then I never have to hear the word narrative again. And that might be okay. Right? Like that might be the trade-off. Like, maybe
you're willing to make that trade.
To say the word narrative ever again, because it's kind of lost. I mean, I still use it, but because it's
I know it's actually quite useful in some,
but it's so bad. It's just it's kind of lost its salience in a way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So maybe community can take over the word.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking back. I think it was. Sorry, I think it was Zero Fox who said it a couple of minutes ago. And I think we talked about this the last time that we streamed together. But it just seems like a lot of people don't have jobs. Like, how are you out in the middle of the day protesting every day in the middle of the week? And again, just to what Kay and I really wanted to do in this conversation is to shed light from our experiences. We have a tremendous amount of sympathy and cringe factor for all of this that's going on. But again, it's true. When I was out protesting so I was in grad school, right, when like Summer of Love popped off. I ended up like taking a leave of absence. My mental health is a disaster. It is inextricably linked to my identity as a social justice warrior, and feeling constantly microaggressed on and feeling just despondent about the state of the world. Like, I was so had such poor emotional regulation, really, you know, when I was involved in all of this stuff. But what was I saying? When I was protesting out every day, I was underemployed, basically. I had gotten a job that like was under my qualifications, that was like mostly remote. And so I really only had to like, I could like really make my own schedule to kind of do cluster things a couple of hours a day, you know, make sure I go and like saw the people I needed to see. And then I loved that, because then I had all the time in the world to go out and protest. So yes, this is often people who are unemployed or severely underemployed. And there's something almost sad about it, because on the one hand, you were joking about like, these people they're not planning, they're not building, you know, it's like you got 6 friends to get together on the side of the road. Like, I don't know what kind of organizer you think that makes you. But on the other hand, there's almost something sad about like, these are like capitalists who don't know it yet. Not even capitalists, but they're like builders in some way, some of these people. Because when I think back to when I was sleeping at City Hall in New York, I was upset. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because they created a little village. There was a food, there were multiple food stations, and there was a first aid nursing station, and there were all of these different stations where you could go to get literature and information. And I had set up in my little spot a little like library. So I brought books, and I had people coming and taking the books and exchanging them and stuff. And it feels magical. It feels like you are creating the like utopian future that you're looking for. And I said capitalist, and obviously in these people's minds, it's not about making the money, and they're not selling things. They're relying on donations, and all of us are begging the people in our lives to donate to us so that we can make this type of stuff happen. But there's like there's something, and there is an organizer out there apparently, because you know like And it's all very unsafe because it's not regulated, and they're not allowing police in here. And there were homeless people who came through, people who trashed it, and all the stuff that you would expect to happen did happen.
Yeah.
But there is like there's this wasted energy to a certain extent.
Yeah. There is moments of creativity and spark and ingenuity and passion, and like it is also like a I don't know. There is like a youthful naivete to some of it. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not quite I don't know. Like you haven't been. A lot of these people aren't quite jaded yet. Right. Some of them are, but like there is something about it, and there's definitely something like romantic about it, right? And like trying to usher in the revolution is like a very romantic idea. It's very dark, and it's absolutely terrifying if you think about it in any type of like real way. But I found like I can look back at it and say that there's like a definite like romanticization around it, you know?
Totally.
And it's like you against the man, against the system, against the big bad world, and you know, so yeah, it's there's aspects about that I not about that specifically, but that type of thing, or that type, like, you know what I mean? That yes. I don't know if I miss it anymore, but like I can appreciate it. You know what I mean? I don't know that I don't have place in my life for today to miss it, but like I can see what was enjoyable about that, you know?
It was enjoyable. Yeah, it was. You feel really good doing it, and like not just in the most like selfish transactional way, but yeah, you feel like you are moving the culture forward. Again, you feel like you're just surrounded by the right people. These are the people who get it. Oh, finally I can let my hair down, you know, whatever. And it's fun. There's like music playing, you know, and like people are smoking, and like there's like a real sense of camaraderie that a lot of people are getting out of this, and that doesn't make them bad people. And it's not even necessarily like entirely cynical. Like I don't think it's just people there are troublemakers who they're going to go outside when it's nice out and there are people and whatever. But it really gives you a sense of purpose. And maybe that's actually it's obvious. Maybe there's something deep there.
Yeah, it's hero's journey energy without a proper place to put it. Yeah. And that I can definitely see that. You have like, you know, some greater, bigger cause, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, everyone's coming together. So but
right.
it's just
you can make, you know, it's again, I'm not the first person to make this observation or argument, but in the ways that woke functions like a religion, and we seem to have evidence that like humans seem to turn toward religion, some sense of meaning, right? Across cultures, across time, people point in that direction. And so, it's like, that is where these people, and I was one of these people, are getting their meaning. That's how they're nourishing their soul. It's their purpose. It's their higher order. And when you put it like that, again, it's cringe, but it's like, it is actually that big for these people.
But I think at the same time, I think if you've been in it long enough, you can see like there is no salvation. There is no at the end of it. Do you know what I mean? There's no redeeming factors. There's no nothing. It is unending. Like, it's unending. It's unrelenting. It's unforgiving. It like eats itself, you know, and just like kind of like spits people out. So it kind of like narrows and whittles away at itself over and over and over. And then I guess that happens. And then like there's a new cause, and like it gets more influx of people, and then it whittles away down at them, and people get cast out or pushed in, and then it goes down. Like just like it happened with BLM, and then it happened with COVID stuff, and then it also happened with the Gaza stuff, and whittles away at people, and then people come back in, and now it's happening with the ICE and the immigration stuff, and it's bringing more people in, and over time it will like whittle itself down, and like spit people out, but more people will be able to come in, because like they're not turning people away. They're not checking to see if you're a Zionist if you're going to film ICE now. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not, like, maybe they are, or maybe they know of people, but like they're also just letting people come in and do the work and be the bodies too. And over time, like that will become more of a memory, but largely these people all have the same belief structures anyways. But even if you don't live up to like quite the level, they will still take you back for the next, you know, what it turns into next, it seems.
That's an interesting point that I haven't thought about. So I'll have to let that marinate for a second. Because I would assume that basically, even if you're against ICE, that being a Zionist is a non-starter.
They might not let you in the signal group, but like I don't think they tell you that you can't. They want bodies. They want bodies, right? So you're a body. So
that's true.
You know, you might not. You're not going to be organizing with them, but they're. Yeah. You know what I mean? So. But
yeah, and I think sorry, this is slightly a side note, but I mentioned something on Twitter. I think you might have interacted with it, but where I live, and from what I can tell, there was a lot of action like this in New York City and in Seattle, and I'm sure it was other cities also, but these are like the cities, I guess, that I'm most plugged into. I don't know, whatever. Business after business, many businesses participating in this. So announcing that they would be closed for the day of the general strike, or announcing that the whole thing was so cringe. So you had some businesses coming out and saying, we're participating in the general strike, you know, fuck ICE, whatever, like our employees, you know, we're giving them the day off so they can go out and protest. Then there were other businesses who maybe they truly support the cause and they just decided to stay open, or I think likely many of them were frightened because they saw all this the pressure campaign building. It was the black square all over again. They saw the pressure campaign building and they didn't want to be the person who didn't post the black square. So the next thing I know, I'm seeing after the first wave of businesses posting that they're closed for the strike, then there's the wave of businesses posting that they're open because of XYZ vulnerability. So we're a small business. We're a women-owned business. We have lots of immigrant, like whatever their reason is. And so we can't afford to close today, which, I mean, most small businesses are operating day to day, week to week, whatever. So yeah, it's fucking true. They should not feel pressure to fucking close for this, but making announcements of having to justify why they're staying open. And then a wave of the announcements of, okay, well, we're staying open, but we're donating a portion of our proceeds to these various immigrant rights groups and whatever. And then I saw this like one bakery. So I pointed this out and I got like some pushback of like, oh, I haven't seen any of this in my area. And like, it was literally everywhere where I live. And I'm plugged into this, to like the service industry or whatever. That's like the industry that I work in. And so I'm plugged into that. But it was literally everywhere. And I saw this one bakery who posted literally like, he posted a call out of another bakery. And it was like, if you're a giant bakery in this neighborhood and you haven't posted or said a single word about these, whatever, the ICE stuff, then I'm going to take that as like, you agree, like you're in support, you know? And just then, and then there's like, and then I become cynical because then after all these businesses announce how incredibly virtuous they are, the next couple days I'm seeing, again, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to be cynical, but several of these businesses had their busiest days yet. Thank you guys so much for coming out. The support was amazing. We're going to extend the fundraiser. You know, we're going to continue doing 10% of sales or whatever all the way through the weekend. Like sold out at like, so a lot of these businesses suddenly had all these people coming in because all these people want a virtue signal and spend money in the businesses that are doing this. And it extended into the next week of like influencers making videos of like, today I'm going out to support all the businesses who like took a stand against ICE. right? And people, and it's the same, it's BLM all over again. It's people sharing lists of businesses who took a stand. I saw another video the other day of this young activist guy at this coffee shop called like Code Blue coffee shop, which is like apparently it's a medical term, right? For like when a patient has been resuscitated. But people hear blue and they think cops. And so this guy's like, don't worry, I just spoke to the owners. Like, the name has nothing to do with cops. They don't support cops. They don't support ICE, you know, and like they even put the sign up in the window. So this guy like went to them with a sign preemptively to put in the window, and these owners just do it. And again, maybe they agree with it. You know, a lot of people do passively agree with this stuff too, which I think for people of us who are kind of like on the right, we can lose sight of that. Like a lot of just normie people who are not very politically active don't fall into this category of deranged leftist activist. Absorb the mainstream opinion about this, which is like, there are mercenaries on our streets. That's kind of what the mainstream media is saying, you know? So if you're just like an average normie person, like you're disturbed by this and you love, and if you're an upper middle class white person, you love the immigrants in your neighborhood, you know? And so like lots of normal people were swept up in feeling some type of way about this. But the pressure campaign that I saw, especially on businesses, really fucking disturbed me. And then I just thought about it too. I was like, now me working today is a political statement. And it felt like a little bit like the Evergreen State College, the day of absence, right? How it had always been just this tradition at the university, the day of absence, where Black and brown, you know, BIPOC students and faculty would not show up to campus one day a year. And the purpose of it, and obviously completely voluntarily, they would stay home, right? To show the university community so that their absence would be felt, you know? So you guys would see how the university and the community just doesn't run the way that it should when we are missing our blessed BIPOC community members. But then in the year that everything blew up with Brett Weinstein, they flipped the day of absence to the white people now were being asked and pressured to not show up. So they decided, you know, basically Black and brown people shouldn't have to like give up their education for that day. It should be the white people, right? And so now it was not required, but you felt social pressure. Now suddenly, if you decided to go into school or to go into work, to go do your job like you would any other day, you were now viewed as taking a political position. And that's really, really not fair. And it's very, very fucking toxic. This type of pressure to force everyone to speak and to take their silence as an indication of something. It's so toxic.
Yeah, you're not giving them their safe space for the day. Come on, like they need a world without white people for a day, because I don't know. And I wonder if they take away like all the white inventions and books and texts and like you know, to strip it all down, and you know, not that it's all white people that do everything, but you know, if you really want to feel the void, then like you can. It's just kind of like a ridiculous thing, you know. It doesn't achieve anything. Yeah. And I saw that you posted, and it was like it did. I think it said to me like it feels like performative. Just it looks performative. It's kind of cringy and it looks performative, and it's like, ooh, look at me. Look how good of an ally I am. It's another word that can fucking, I don't know, burst into flames, you know?
Yes.
Ally. Like, shut up. You know?
Yeah. And again, I dislike that, but what I dislike even more is then how it then turned people's neutral acts into political acts.
Something like overtly political. Yeah.
Right. And like, yeah. And even I just had a feeling, and maybe I'm wrong. Again, maybe everyone who spoke out, that's just actually sincerely how they felt. But I really get the feeling there were people who were posting to say, you know, basically don't hate us. Whoa, hold on. We are going to be open tomorrow. It's like, it's literally like the Jews like marking their doors, you know, So like God skips over them and doesn't kill their firstborn. And it's literally, you know, like, no, we're good people. I have to stay open. You know, I do need to make money here. I am a capitalist. I got to pay my fucking my immigrant employees that you're so concerned about. They need to get their fucking paycheck. So we need to make money today. But yeah, it's very bad. It's very, very, very bad.
Yeah. Yes.
And and even more perverse as like, but it's seen as so virtuous.
Mm-hmm. I've been having these like weird, I don't know. I'm like really not much on social media. Like I go on YouTube a bit.
God bless
you. I
guess
I have a little bit of a community on YouTube, you could say, and like I'm on Twitter a little bit. Like I don't really post anything. But I like left Instagram. I left Facebook. I wasn't really on TikTok, but like I'm very rarely on. But like every so often, I'll like open it up and I'll scroll a little, and I'll look around, and I just like started feeling so like annoyed and angry that like I am not considered the compassionate person anymore. And like, fuck you, you stupid fuck. I am very compassionate and loving, you asshole. Like my stance is like I want good things for people.
Right.
I want good things for most people, except for like really awful, terrible, vicious people who harm people. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just have a different view of how we get there than you do, and than I previously did. And now I am somehow in this group of people who is considered not compassionate. And you know what I mean? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how? I just got like so annoyed with the in-group, out-group cliquiness of it. And like, I don't know. And I get angry that like, you know, this whole thing kind of like gets taken over or pushed in the way like it got where it was in the way that it did. Because I still think that, I don't know, like I don't necessarily want like all like leftist policies or anything, but there are some things in there that I'm like kind of okay with, but like I can't even align with any of it anymore because it's so fucking cuckoo. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't trust the people there anymore either. And I just started to feel like, ugh, how did we end up here? How do we end up like that? The compassionate people are like so not compassionate, refuse to talk to other people, won't engage in like any type of like conversation, won't do any like internal critique of their beliefs and how they got there, refuse to look at like the context and the other power structures that like influence their thinking, won't do any of that work. But but I'm not compassionate just because I think that, I don't know, the conflicting like needs need to be reckoned with,
Right. And it's like compassion for different people for different reasons or whatever, like, and I mean, this is, again, we're not the first to observe that the left has a real problem with misplaced compassion and empathy, right? Even like, so this is a little tangential, but I saw someone post, and again, it's like, it's evergreen, unfortunately, but it's like, while half the country and every celebrity in this country mobilized for the two people who were just objectively obstructing law enforcement actions, whether the use of force against them was justified or not. These two people who died because of this, right? When they intentionally and knowingly put themselves in maybe they didn't reckon with how dangerous the situation was, but who put themselves in that situation as lucid adults.
Yeah.
There were 40 people who were murdered in Chicago, like in that same time period, over the weekend. And not to even like use those dead people as like a cudgel either. I'm very like sensitive to to that, because I think that can get really ugly too. Like, I always feel compelled as a supporter of Israel to like point out that other people don't care about suffering in other places, but it becomes yucky even to do that, because it's like, but they actually don't care, and that's and it's actually fucking horrible. Yeah, so it's like, so it just becomes like really disgusting to even think about. So I don't like doing that, but it is true, right? And it's like, well, no, I have a limited capacity for compassion, and I choose to spend it basically, like in places, in different places, essentially. And I think, I don't know if this is maybe something I shouldn't share, although you're not that you're going to judge me or the people in the chat here, but like, this is how I've kind of felt since Trump too. There's several things that I really don't like that Trump has done. Okay. Or whatever. Most of these things are like tonal issues that I have. I don't like the way that the administration talks about things, how they choose to treat things, even if I agree with them directionally. But all of the libs, again, who want us to regret our votes and to like commit that we are going to vote Democrat no matter what happens in the next election. I just like, I'm not worked up about any of this stuff. And sometimes because of how worked up other people are, I have to check myself. And I'm like, I don't know how worked up I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, and it's, I'm not suppressing anything. I'm not ignoring the news. You know, I just like see this and I'm okay. So am I desensitized to it to a certain extent? Like, well, I don't really think so, because, you know, when I had like different beliefs, I never got desensitized to all of that stuff. I just got more and more and more emotionally dysregulated. But I'm just not worked. Not that I don't like seeing videos of people being shot.
Yeah.
They don't even take away the shootings, even just the ICE stuff in general. Like, I have this weird ambivalence about the immigration stuff, because like personally, at the individual, I grew up in New York. I live in Hawaii, huge multicultural, like, areas. Basically, I like living around people from different cultures. You know, that's something that I appreciate. So and I don't think that I don't believe in heritage Americanism. You know, I want to bring the Indians over. Like, I'm basically like, I'm like cool largely, you know, like with immigration, but I'm also like, I really, I am wary of some people's, I think, who the Tucker Carlson kind of strain of this stuff, let's say, as one example. But like, I totally understand people who just like, who want to close the border. I mean, I do want to do that. We need to actually have a fucking border, right? We need to actually be enforcing our laws. But like, so I'm not going to feel bad if Trump never, what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say evict. Deport, thank you. Like, if Trump never set out to do mass deportations, I would not feel let down as a voter. I wasn't voting for mass deportations, I guess is essentially what I'm trying to say with all these extra words. But like, I'm not worked up about it either. I'm just like, yeah, it is reasonable. You know, they did break the law. They did commit a crime. You know, if it were my choice, maybe I think a lot of them probably could, you know, become Americans in a legal way. Right. You know, I'm sure a lot, you know, all these things, but I'm simply not worked up about this stuff. And again, it's making me feel a little uneasy, because I'm having a hard time I'm having a hard time. I don't know if trusting myself is the right word, although that's a bit of a theme for me, just because of like how much my ideas and views have changed, right?
Yeah.
I got to a point where I was like, I can't trust, especially in the beginning of my ideological shift, where it's like, I can't trust myself to make, to come to good conclusions, because I got so many things wrong confidently. And, you know, like, I hadn't thought a lot of these things through, but I was still the same person that you see now, which means I was loud about my fucking opinions, which makes it all the more embarrassing that I held these really incoherent, terrible opinions, right? or beliefs or whatever. And so, yeah, that's just how I'm feeling now, is very like, am I underreacting? Am I accurately perceiving what's happening? Like, have I been desensitized to some of the cruelty? Or are people being, or is this a case of misplaced empathy on behalf of the people who are so worked up about this? I don't know. And I don't like not knowing. I feel very unsettled by that.
Yeah. I think I've heard, so my understanding is in many like red states that these like deportations and ICE people going around, it is not largely protested. They're going in, they're doing their job, they're taking out criminals, whatever, or like they're deporting the people who are on their list, and like there's not much fanfare about it. In some places there's more than others, but like largely that there isn't in many places. But in some places, like the sanctuary cities or states or wherever it is, because they're not having like local law enforcement in compliance with federal law, which seems like a fucking recipe for disaster, honestly.
And they have a radicalized populace.
Yeah.
In these places.
Things are amping up. And then people are going and antagonizing the agents as they're doing their job. So you're forcing them to, now if you're chasing them around, following them around, you're also forcing them to a degree to like go in big groups now they can't do a team of 3 or 4 anymore. If they're going to be met with a group of 20 people every time they're going somewhere, they have to travel in larger packs. So it's like adding to, you know, the tensions that is happening. And I think that there are some things that I have heard about like certain types of like refugees potentially getting their status revoked, which probably would be a very bad thing, because they were brought over intentionally and having refugee status, and you shouldn't probably just take that away.
The problem is with that work, that
not
like,
asylum, not asylum
status.
Yeah, but not asylum. Not that they came to the border and they were given asylum, like they were across the world in a war or something, and then they're brought in as like a smaller population as a refugee.
My only thing is Mohammed Hadid is legally a refugee. He's a citizen of, I think, 3 countries, and he is legally a Palestinian refugee. So that's my only point, is you're right. Like asylum is different from that. These are different statuses, but
and this is like from a very small particular community, and this is just like a small particular community of people, and like the administration was going to take it away from all of these people, and I would have to go like, I don't have all the details, so I don't want to like say anything, and maybe that would not be the right thing. That's possible. It's possible that it would be the right thing, but it's possible that it also isn't, and maybe that would be something to be like upset about. But the thing is, if you're like protesting the sex offender getting taken out, then it's hard for me to trust you when you say that this group of refugees is also like innocent baby angels, right? Like, so I don't know. That's why it's like I have to be very careful with what I'm believing. But like there are ways I could see that immigration enforcement could be done poorly. And I definitely think that like, I think taking away or instead of changing it from like the criminals go first and like the ranking of like who gets deported first, taking that away and stripping that away from it, you know, people might say that that's like an indication that like, well, they're not just going after the worst criminals. Now they're just wanting to go after whoever. And
but they can. Right? I remember.
It wouldn't. Maybe would.
I remember having this.
Yeah,
I think maybe, but I don't think that's true though. Well, or I don't know. So I appreciate you saying all that, because it lets me like hedge or clarify a little bit too. Like, yeah, there are certainly like, I wish that the Trump administration did a lot of things better. That's the thing. It's like I sort of like directionally with them or ambivalent about a lot of these things directionally, but it's like there's so many like unforced errors along the way. And the messaging from the Trump administration does not help. And it's like they're just, I'm sick of the trolling. Like, even if I still find it kind of funny, which I do, not all of it, not the white nationalist trolling. That's not funny to me. That's stupid and playing with fire and just gonna like just tear the Republican Party apart. And I want a strong Republican Party, right? But I remember having this conversation with my mom at like right after the election. And she was saying, yeah, oh, well, they're not just going after like the worst criminals. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you're here illegally, that is a crime. And again, like, I'm not so bullish that everyone who did that needs to be forced to leave, but I am bullish that we all need to be able to call that a crime. Like, you know, like, and it should be seen by the grace of this country if we allow those people to stay or choose not to give them a hard time. And
for sure.
Yeah. And like, we need to be able to like, just talk. I think that's how I feel about a lot of things, actually, is where I'm more like dispositionally liberal. But I'm just like, I'm at the point where I demand what I believe to be like honesty and like a reality based, like with the trans stuff, right? It's like, I will like, I'm gender critical. I'm whatever. I'm like, people would see me as like pretty harsh in some ways on the trans stuff. But I use anyone's preferred pronouns. You know what I mean? Like, I have trans people in my life, and I want us to be able to clearly say that trans women are men. And we can treat them like women, and that, you know, like we just need to be able to like live in reality, right? You know, like, and I feel like that's so much of the gaslighting, I guess, of the left.
Oh, for sure.
But even like, so with the trolling shit, and again, sorry, this is helping me refine my point. Trump just did an interview, and the reporter asks him, like, can you say, it's just not a necessary question, but like, can you guarantee everyone out there that like you will not be in the White House on January 21st, 2029? And I'm smiling because it is fucking funny because they just like give it to him. But I wish he wouldn't fucking do it. I wish he wouldn't do this, but he just says like, you know, I don't think so. Like, but that would be pretty interesting, wouldn't it be? You know, like, that'd be a very interesting thing if that happened. And he says straight out, like,
of course he's gonna say that. Fucking, I love it. You're asking for it. Fucking,
no, but he says, hilarious. So the next sentence out of his mouth is, I can't just say what you want me to say. I know what you want me to say, but I can't just say what you want me to say because there'd be no fun in that. Trump like literally said that. And it's true. There is no fun. These people are so easy to play with, you know? And so it is funny, but also stop, because you're feeding the derangement.
I know, but it's too funny. That's like too obvious.
No,
it's
not. It's not.
No, at some point it's like Darwinism. Like, only the strong survive. Like, they're gonna fry their brains. We have to let them. Like, the man's joking.
No, we don't. We don't because this is okay. I think where I'm frustrated is what I've come to realize, or how I've come to sort of view my vote for Trump, is like sort of accidental accelerationism, because I'm not like, and because I basically now I don't want that. And it wasn't really, it wasn't intentional, because I didn't think that voting Trump back in was going to just accelerate the process so we get all the craziness out of the left and the right. I thought it was going to be a correction. I thought I very naively was not thinking about the pendulum swing back in the other direction, which it was very stupid on my part. But I see that as like, oh, wow. Like, we've
fuck.
The left is just getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and he does feed that when he doesn't need to, and a lot of people in his administration and the staffers and whatever feed that when they don't need to, and it pisses me off, because I guess that's the point, is like, so you make all these good points about the things that I can criticize about the way that the Trump administration is carrying out some of these policies or whatever. But where I say is like, I can't tell if I'm having an appropriate reaction is because the left, and now like some people on the right, or like kind of right, center right, are doing the like, well, maybe it is fascism thing, right? And so I'm just like, to me, it's just obviously not fascism, but I do feel slightly gaslit, and there's still enough like really smart people that I trust and listen to who are not reacting this way, and I'm like, okay, thank you, I need a sanity check, I need these people that I can turn to, but yeah, it's just part of the crazy, like even Hutch, who I really really like Hutch, and I watch his stuff, and like I want Hutch to win in the battle of the Dems, I want but I mean, he just believes it's like a full descent into fascism. Now, he's much more optimistic than the other people, and he says back to his chat, or optimistic and I think politically minded. But people in his chat or today were like, when this is all over, like it's not enough for, the Joe Rogans and all of them of the world to vote Democrat next time. Like they need to understand why what they did was wrong and all of the and like and Hutch was just like bad. That's gonna be pretty hard. And I can't tell sometimes with Hutch, like I can't tell if he's really just as woke, but is just much more politically savvy and realistic than his audience, or if he like isn't as crazy as them, but doesn't want to be so harsh because it is his audience, and not just his audience, but it's his political coalition that he really sincerely believes in. So I can't always tell. I think I'm hoping it's the latter, where he's just like, no, no, we don't need to actually berate and like put every person on trial, whoever like voted Trump or voted Republican. But that is where a lot of people are at on the left.
They're
like, so it's. And
I
don't want to participate in the accelerationism.
It's so it's like painful to watch in a way. And I think I hear some of these people talking that's like what people are gonna want, and I think you're very wrong. Like I don't think that's gonna. I think you have a very loud minority of people who take up all of the space and all of the air in the room who want that, and I think largely you're going to lose people with that kind of, you know what I mean, if that's what you push. That doesn't mean that you can't do it, but like I think if you lead with that, it's going to be awful. But like I don't care. I don't necessarily want them having power, so like have at it, but I don't know. I was thinking like people who like hate Trump so much, but still like have this reverence for Biden make no sense to me, because like you should be so mad that he alienated and allowed the culture to like he was the most progressive president of our time. Okay, and like look what happened. You got fucking bitch slapped, bitch. Like
but they can't
and
even.
Now look where you are, and like you should be mad that there was no
but that
moderation.
was their fault. Yeah, but that was but they wanted that. Okay, they wanted that. Where you can blame Biden is frankly for like a lot of old people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg for not knowing when it's fucking time to step down, right? When, for not maybe listening to people or being too hard-headed. And so he really did like compromise whatever ability they might have had to win the election.
He did, but I don't know if he would have stepped down earlier.
But the progressivism of Joe Biden is not the fault of Joe Biden. I mean, it is. I'm not like,
but it was under him. So he's yes, but my children want to eat ice cream 6 times a day.
They are children.
I don't give them ice cream. Yes,
but they are children. Yes, but the people that you're talking about. Yes, but the people that you're talking about who are mad at Trump could never be mad at Biden for that, because that was him doing what they wanted. Where they're mad at Biden is for the places where he didn't move enough with them.
I understand that, but like retrospectively, you have to I've been trying really hard. Like I'm trying to like, I'm not of the left, and as much as I like start to feel like I'm part of the right or on the right, and then I'm like, no, I think I need to not be anywhere and be largely unaffiliated so I can dispassionately look at what's happening, because I spent too much time on one side and the other side kind of going toward there, but then they look really fucking crazy, and I'm not sure.
Right.
Like how you're saying, like, I'm not sure. You want a reasonable right? Okay, but like also, I don't know. I'm not sure if I believe them. I'm not sure where they're going. They seem a little fucking off the chain right now. So like whatever. So I'm like, I'm just trying to zoom out and be like, just watch, you know, without taking it doesn't I don't need to have a side. I don't need to root for anyone to win. Specifically, you just like take a look and see what's happening. And it kind of like I feel like the criticisms are easier when you're not like when you don't have the attachment to it, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But then it start having like the reflexiveness to it. So I think that's probably, you know, more people should do that. But like I really think people should be like pissed off at Biden, because it ended up alienating so many of like the quote unquote normie voters, right? And push people like us even further away from like that progressive movement over time, right? And I don't think it necessarily had to be like that. And that was like a reaction to all of the Trump years, or all the 4 Trump years, and so on and so forth. So it just kind of makes sense to me that yes, I agree, they'll never do it, but they should.
Yeah. I mean, so I definitely feel what you're saying about wanting to like what the closer you are to something, the more you feel like you're on that team, the harder it becomes to like criticize that team in meaningful ways. And not for everyone, but no, I agree with that. And I feel more on like I feel like I both feel like I'm on the team of the right and that I'm not, you know? Like I am, because if you have to drop the country into 2 buckets, right? Like, I'm just obviously in the right wing bucket, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I like something James Lindsay said. Ooh, I'm gonna really butcher how he said it because he said it very succinctly and nicely. But basically, like, I don't want the left to win, you know, but if the right loses, they'll deserve it right now, especially, you know. That's how I feel about both sides. Like they really do. And it's not just like both parties, the uniparty. No, it's not a uniparty. They're quite different, actually.
Yeah.
But there are just these real issues, cowardice being a large one on both sides, especially if we're like if we're working under the assumption that a lot of these people aren't crazy ideologues, but that they are kind of going along to get along and to like stay with the moment and whatever. Then they're cowards. Both the Republicans who continue to this day who won't say out loud that Trump lost the 2020 election, and the Democrats who maybe really aren't woke, but like just go ahead and parrot this stuff because they believe, you know, this is the next movement. I need to be on the right side of it, you know, even if I don't necessarily believe or agree with this. So there's cowardice. But Zero Fuck said in the chat a little earlier, and I'm curious what you think about this. He said it seems to him like the kind of freaky far right has been crashing and burning recently. What do you make of that?
I'm not sure. Like I see the crash. I see them burning, but I don't know if that's like if it's the kind of fire that's gonna like, you know, like lead to the destruction, or you know what I mean, or how much it's gonna take down with it, or if it's just gonna be like, oh, this is just it just becomes like that's the new normal. Like because it could be, because that's kind of like what happened to the left in some ways. It looked like it was crashing and burning in some ways, and it just like subsumed itself, like, you know. So I don't know. I feel like yes, in many ways, but I don't know what comes of that, right? He's asking. Zero Fucks asked, did you see James Lindsay on Ami's House? Yes, I saw. Did you see him on Ami's House?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, no, and I right, he is saying the same thing, that basically that they crashed sooner than he thought that they would, and that he was essentially trying to coax that out of them. I think very similar to you. One reason that I'm hesitant to say that they're not a threat to the right and to the Republican Party, basically, and therefore to our, body politics in this country and in North America and whatever. But people said woke is over, right? And woke is so not over. So I'm hesitant to say that the woke right, for lack of better terms, has met the end. But I have pessimism and optimism, similar to what you said. It's like the same thing happened on the left, and it just grew and grew because there are appealing because especially if they are both woke, if they do share some of these same qualities, then they also speak to the same things inside people, the same grievances and insecurities and like need for kind of like connection and stuff like this. So if it's like feeding the same thing, then it could continue to grow. And also I think there's still, even if the excitement around these extreme people is fading a little bit, or if some of them are embarrassing themselves a lot, there's still, the people will still find the establishment and a lot of these other people as very cringe. So like that's not solved. It's not like people are going to go back to liking the mainstream Republicans or whatever. There's still this feeling, and I think some of it misplaced, some of it valid, that like boomer con, as they call it, right? That like that there is this real feeling on the right that, and maybe there's some things that make me more optimistic. There's this guy, I think Jesse Arm is his name. Crazy name. Arm is a crazy last name, but he works for the Manhattan Institute, and he's been doing like polling and focus group testing on like Zoomer Republicans.
Okay.
And his report was like pretty optimistic, like they don't, like, it was like something like half of them or close to half of them didn't know who Nick Fuentes was at all. Like literally hadn't heard of him. And he says, like, ironically and interestingly, like they are all like very liberal, like they're much more liberal than older conservatives. And you see that like on economic things and on social things. They were more liberal on like trans stuff, on economic policy, which you do see. That's the populism thing, right? That makes them sort of veered towards
Zoomers? How old do they get to? Like, what's their?
I think they get to like like 28.
Look it up. Oh, really?
They get old. Yeah.
Zoomer.
But
okay.
But basically, like that there's not this super strong animus against Israel. Like just like a lot of these things were not present in a lot of the polling that he's done.
Okay, there's 14 to 29. So I have a Zoomer.
Okay. There you go.
I have a few. Okay.
You have a focus group that you could conduct in your house.
Yes, I wasn't sure. I didn't know. I guess I should know the fucking, I don't know, the generation he's a part of, but whatever.
Well, and these things are kind of arbitrary, and I think
they shift. I think over time
it shifts, and I think it also really depends on like the age of the other siblings in the house too. Like my sister is Gen Z, but I'm a millennial, and I think that like she grew up kind of millennial culture, that. But so that made me like a little more optimistic. And then also, speaking of Ami's house, Ami said in a way that I think was like a little bit cringe, and I was trying to talk to Noam about this, but Ami basically feels pretty confident. Like Ami was talking about like how much he got recognized basically at AmFest, right? And that there were some of these like Groyper kids there who would start these conversations, the antagonistic conversations with him, and that he was basically able to like handle it, and like with a little bit of pushback they kind of folded, and he's like and they're confused, and like they hold all this animus, but they also like really liked me and we're just like excited to like see someone like famous, like, and that seemed like plausible to me.
Well, it seems plausible for like a right wing racists can be very polite to the people that they don't like on a like immutable characteristic base, if you will, right?
Sure.
Whereas on the left, like it's different. I think that tracks like historically. There's a politeness there that we can all get along. But I don't know if they're going to give up their beliefs for it. Do you know what I mean? Or they're just going to be polite in the moment.
So no, that this is a good point, but it leads me into the next thing that also makes me slightly optimistic, which is just they're young. and okay, so another thing that Jesse said was basically none of them in like the most recent focus group that they did, none of them receive any of their news from a news outlet, be that written or cable news. They didn't list it as none of them listed it as any of their sources for any of their information, right? And so basically, and the point is like, and this is offensive to the young kids, but it's like they don't know much of anything. They live in memes. They hear like, and again, not to talk down to them, whatever. This is their product of the culture and the society and all these things, blah blah blah. But these things are not very deep. That is surface level to a large extent, and there is also the edgelordness of it. And I was watching. There's this guy Nick Matau. I like him. Also kind of cringe, but I like him enough. He's a conservative activist who's like super pro-Israel. He like just recently got married to this Israeli woman, Israeli American woman. I find her incredibly cringe. Basically, he's like a TikTok live guy, but he posts his TikTok lives to YouTube, and so I watch them on there. And he's got a lot of information. Like he's in a, especially on behalf of the state of Israel, he's a really effective debater and communicator, but he's also a conservative. And he had some affiliation with Turning Point. Like he had, before Charlie died and everything, he had been invited as like a VIP to America Fest. And he was at AmFest, and he's been posting content. I guess he had like a little booth, which granted, I don't think it's that hard to get. It seems like there were lots of little like booths set up in this conference hall or whatever outside of like the main stage. But he had a little booth where he's up there on like a little stage with a microphone, and people are coming up to engage with him. And he's been posting these conversations that he's had with the people who come up and ask questions. And he posted one, I think like today or yesterday. And it's these questions from these like Groyper-ish guys. And they are polite, so you're right. Like they're still like conscious of how they're being perceived, and they're playing a bit of a game of like when they ask the spicy question, and like warming things up. But he doesn't attack them. Not that that's what we're claiming the prescription should be, but he doesn't attack them even on the basis of like being bigoted or anything. He like answers their question in a way that would appeal to them and reaches through to them, and with a lot of facts and numbers and information. And basically, man for man, they were all just like, oh, okay, like cool, like I didn't know that, or like I think we like agree like more than I thought we would. And yeah, maybe they are lying, but I think they're probably being honest. Like I just think it's not that deep for a lot of them, which makes me optimistic. But then again, we see how much it took hold on the left, because it's not that deep for people on the left too. We kind of started out by saying that, right? So much of this left-wing ideology you can't look at too closely. People aren't going that deep with it anyway, but it's felt very strongly and very deeply. It has this high emotional salience.
Yes, definitely. And so you guys were talking yesterday a bit about like, what do you think can get through to people? And do you think anything more can, like, are there other things you think that can get through to people on the left? Or is it just like those types of like chipping away Socratic conversations? Like I've been thinking about this. That's why. So I've been thinking about like, what could I have listened to? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it takes
what could
people
I have heard?
This is a somewhat cynical thing, but it just feels tried and true to me. And I've reiterated this already as like one of the reasons that I see my goal and purpose of speaking out publicly about any of this stuff is it is about setting a permission structure. So yes, it's going to be the sort of Socratic. It's going to be either the woke comes for them, right? It turns on something that's dear to them or central to them or their family or their loved ones or something they know a lot about, right? If woke's going to turn, you know, they're from some whatever random niche country and suddenly the woke has something to say about it and you're just like, holy shit, you guys don't know anything about this. So it either is going to affect them personally. I like to think the Socratic stuff can help, but I don't even know if that stuff really helps unless you already have a reason for, because you have to be willing. You have to be willing emotionally to challenge it. Like, I can't emphasize that enough, how much of my ideological process was like emotionally giving up my attachment to like being a good person. Which again, obviously I still think I'm a good person, but you know, like there's so much tied up in that identity of being on the left when you think that you're, when you are on the side of justice, on the right side of history. And that's how you like, and that's really how you conceptualize yourself. So
yes, it's hard to not be the compassionate person anymore. It's hard, even though I know I am, like, and I can, you know, say all these things, but like, it's hard to give up that like identity label or that like, you know, societal or community understanding of who you are. It kind of sucks, especially when you've built a lot of your, I don't know, like built a lot of who you are or the fit as your foundational parts of your of who you are as a person in it. I think that there can be, and I don't know because it can backfire. I think that there's ways to show, and I don't think you can do this necessarily with the express purpose of changing people's minds and making them like change their views per se. But I think that there's probably a way to slowly like show people how there is manipulation in what they believe and how they are taught or led to only certain causes of only certain people, and that by the lack of focus and lack of attention, by directing their attention to only specific issues, that is a form of manipulation. And I do think that is an actual manipulation of people, of these people. And it's like, why aren't other people worthy of the compassion and the empathy? That's kind of the problem. Yes, the empathy is suicidal, but it's also like we can only look at this group and not that group, because then what if like group A and then there's group B, and what if group C is like bad here but good here? Like it gets too muddy, so you can't take a side, right? It's like why it can't be black and white. It's why nobody's talking about Iran right now. You know what it's like, right? Because it gets very complicated. So I think that there's ways over time to show, partially by like moneyed interests. Can't be too heavy into that, but like academic. I know. Like, I don't want to get into that at all. I know, but why in academia are we focusing on certain areas here? Why is that the same somewhat, like somehow all over the place? Like, why isn't there more focus on other things? I think there's ways to like to kind of like start to highlight that and show people things that they're missing. Just kind of question like, why are the movements that are so popular so popular? And it feels good. And I think that it kind of like taps into the structures that they already believe in. Like they believe in like the big bad power and stuff like that. There's like a conspiratorial thing with the left too. There's a lot of conspiracy on the right, but there is conspiracy on the left too, but it's like much more diffused, and it's like system, the power. But it kind of gets at things that they already believe exist. Do you know what I mean? And you have to highlight it, but you can't necessarily, I don't think that these things can be done with necessarily the goal of getting people to stop caring about issues. But I think I would be happy if people could care about more things less rapidly. You know what I mean? If the left could broaden itself to care more about more types of people. So we have to take into account like conflicting needs of others and nuance and context, and they can be less rabid with their belief. I think that would be much better for, you know what I mean?
Or but that also like requires them to acknowledge that there can be such thing as like conflicting rights and like conflicting needs, because that which requires them to buy into the fact that not everything can be boiled down to oppressor and oppressed, right? That not everything is a clear power structure, or even when there's a power imbalance, that does not necessarily imbue morality, you know, on the one that that has less power. And I don't know, I
people know that, like, when they in like real life. I think that those are easy things to highlight with real people, but it's very difficult to highlight like with abstract concepts of people far away, you know.
And when they start talking about things at the group level, especially groups that they feel like they have privilege over, and then they get nervous to talk about, and so they don't feel. I hope you're right, and I think you're certainly. I think that's true, or I guess I worry that to the extent that that will work, it also requires one of the things that I said. I think it kind of requires maybe a one step removed, which actually makes it better. So I think to buy into what you're saying, you don't necessarily have to be part of the group that the people are getting it wrong about, or that the left is ignoring in this specific time, but maybe you know someone who is. So like, I think what you're saying would get would land really well on a lefty who has a close Iranian friend or a Iranian boyfriend or something, because they have it's not them directly, but like they have like some window into the human side of like where, because otherwise it is easy to just rationalize what you can still just put people in those boxes of how you've been taught to think about things. But that's why I think the permission structure is so important. And even that is complicated, but I think especially if you can get people alone, which you can when you're speaking on social media, people can watch this stuff in the privacy of their own room. You know, my whole ideological journey was done in the closet, essentially. It was me, you know, like sneaking around, like gobbling up all of this new information, these new ways of thinking. But it was Katie Herzog and Jesse Singal, you know, it was people who were clearly liberal, you know,
who
were Jewish and lesbian. So exactly. They had all these things that like made them safe, that I could listen to them. Same with like a John McWhorter. Now, to be fair, of course, you have the lefties who any black person who doesn't like toe the whatever line is just going to call you an Uncle Tom and whatever. But I think that's especially true in groups. I do think one-on-one, like it would be incredibly hard, I think, for like any normal person who's not like really possessed by this stuff, any like random progressive, if they're like in a room alone with like Glenn Lowry or John McWhorter, like they're not going to be thinking like, oh, this is just some self-hating black man. Like I think I think speaking to people who have, and it's like the same thing with me too. It was part of the reason why I started talking up about like, you know, gay and trans stuff. It's like, well, because I have the gay card. It's like one thing, you know, and John McWhorter has spoken about this explicitly, that he knows that he's the black man giving permission to white audiences to break from the woke orthodoxy here. And so I think that is crucial. And I think you can grab people who are not affected personally or even by 1 degree of separation, if the person who's delivering the heterodox message is relatable in some other key ways, or like passes which I feel like is in some ways how I've felt. Like, obviously, I have not been able to come across to enough of these liberal audiences as fair-minded and liberal, which I believe I am, because obviously I'm perfect. But some of these people clearly just think I'm like a crazy magatard, whatever. But like some of these communities, like I am like welcomed in, you know, and like including Hutch's. Like Hutch's mods will really tighten down on people if they start like talking shit to me in the chat, you know, like and so there are like some, but those are the spaces where it's someone on the left who's already is in trouble in some way with the left, you know. Loner Box is a space where I can go in and talk to people, and I'm allowed to be in that Discord or whatever, and like Kalinda and stuff like that. But like I can't go in Peace Ghost chat without being harangued. There's not a person in Peace Ghost chat who's gonna, not that poor me, and not that it's about people talking to me, but essentially my point being that I think an effective way to get this message across, right, is if people can see you as relatable to them saying the dangerous thing, it gives them permission. And I've apparently failed at coming across as reasonable to a good portion of these people, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, it happens, right? Some people don't want to hear things, right? Like I think some communities have like different communities, you know what I mean? Online communities, if you will, or different chats you're gonna go into are more like geared one way or the other. Some people don't want to hear shit at all. But like I think I messaged you the other day when we couldn't stream. It's like, how are things going? And it's like, fuck, I hate everything, and that's just kind of how I feel like watching everybody fucking talk and fucking yap over shit. And I'm just like, nobody believes a fucking thing that they're saying. Everybody's just saying shit because they have to fucking feed themselves, and like just feeling very dismayed with everything. You know what I mean? Like nothing feels nobody really feels like authentic. Everyone feels like they're doing some kind of fucking kayfabe, and it just kind of like grates on me after a while. And it's like, I'm not hating on it. I get what people have to do, but at the same time, I don't know how, like, that's not how I want to. It's not how I want to, spend my time.
No, I really agree with you. And just interestingly enough, along those lines, and like the last week, I've noticed myself getting really annoyed when I'm watching streamers and I perceive their laughter to be forced. Because it's like you are alone in a room reacting to either things in a chat or like a video or whatever's happening. And sometimes I feel like I'm just like, I know you already looked at this, like you prepped for the stream about this thing or whatever. And the laugh is just, and I shouldn't be so mean because, by the way, everything that I think is cringe in someone else is a projection, because I cringe at myself too if I feel like I'm like laughing artificially too long. So I'm projecting this, this onto people to a certain extent. But yeah, I've just been feeling like, it's like it takes me out. It like makes me feel like it's a performance, and it's like, well, you just got to eat, and yeah, so I feel
that's how I feel when I see people like screaming at each other and calling each other names, and then they're like fucking cool with each other. I'm like, okay, this is all like none of this is real, and that's fine. That's okay. That's just like, I don't know how interested I am in that. You know what I mean? Like, right. And that's okay. You know what I mean? There's an audience
for that stuff. For that. I'm gonna watch Netflix. Yeah.
So I don't know. But I should find like a fucking TV show. I don't watch TV ever anymore. Just like always
there's like
listening. Just listening to something in my ear as opposed to watching stories.
No, same. I'm usually just on YouTube or whatever. But I every once in a while I lay down on the couch with my wife, especially. We'll sit down and like put on Netflix and watch something, and then sometimes when I just want to like check out of this stuff, I'll put on something on Netflix. There's plenty of stuff. I'm pretty easy though. I'll watch like total garbage, and I like a lot of like the silly like documentaries, not silly, like crime documentaries and stuff on Netflix.
I watch trials when I want to zone out, which is probably ridiculous. But
can I convert you
to 12 hours a day?
Can I convert you to being a Harvey Weinstein truther? Hold
on. You said that, and I just have to say one thing before you go on.
Yeah, go.
I think the Epstein files is the most boring shit I've ever heard, and if nobody talks about it again, we would all be better for it. It is so dumb, and people who are obsessed with children being sexually exploited are weird.
It's a moral panic, and it's a moral panic, and the problem is actually it's so fucking cynical because the people who are loud about the Epstein files are people who are using it totally cynically for political gain, which is most of the people on the left, frankly, and actual deranged people. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but like people with severe mental illness, like that's the conflict. And okay, that's actually not fair and not true. There's also a segment of people who are normal people who are just horrified by the idea of child sexual abuse, who listen to all the hype and believe things that are just not true or yes. unfounded, at least in this case. And so that's not fair. There are people who are responding because they think that it is the satanic panic, right?
But like again. Overall, yes, that's all. I need to say
yes,
so I completely agree.
Well, I've been bringing up the Harvey Weinstein stuff because I'm just like, well, while I'm over here defending, because every time I say that about Epstein, which everyone knows, right? Then you get called a pedophile or a Jew or or whatever. In whatever space I'm in too, I find that this is obviously a thing on the right, and there's a lot of conspiracy people on the right who really want there to be pedophile rings in this country. It would seem, or like among the elites of the world, they really want it to be true. Yeah. But even in left-wing spaces, when I was talking about this, people are like really offended that I'm like, I said one sentence. I said Jeffrey Epstein did not run a child sex trafficking ring, which he didn't.
I know
he didn't. He also didn't run a blackmail ring, and that got me a lot of backlash. But anyway, so now I'm just lumping them together because they're my two most unpopular opinions, and they're both like Jewish. It just like feeds everything. It's it's like all the stuff. But yeah, I believe that Jeffrey Epstein was not a child sex trafficker, and I believe that Harvey Weinstein was basically like wrongfully convicted on the most serious of his crimes. All that to say, I think both of these men
Derek Chauvin probably didn't get a fair trial in Minnesota because people were, scared to, I don't know.
Oh yeah, right.
On the jury were terrified.
And
we can add that one into
the O.J. Simpson stuff. The O.J. Simpson trial is having a resurgence in people's memory too. I think there was, or maybe there was just recently. I don't know if people are just bringing this back now, or if one of the jurors just recently did an interview or something. But yeah, right. Like that's an example of that. But anyway, all of that to say
yes.
was there's a podcast that what convinced me that Harvey Weinstein was wrongfully convicted. Sorry, let me back up. I got a throat clear. He was a bad guy. He did abuse his his position. And he was a horn dog, and he was cheating on his wife, and all of these horrible things, right? I don't think he was a rapist. I think, in fact, they had
like regrettable sex, is what you're saying. It was regrettable sex.
Yeah, except it's worse than that, because for the main claimants on, again, the most egregious crimes, that was like oral rape and whatever, and these other things, not just. Yes, that is still not rape. You coming to regret it after, or not really wanting to do it but consenting to it, is still not rape. But no, on the contrary, like the one of the women in communication with him entirely right after the supposed rape, stayed to extend her trip to stay with him, brought her mother to come meet him, told her best friend and roommate at the time that she was in love with him, that he was like the best intimate partner. They weren't really having sex because he has like a botched penis, and all of this stuff came out in the court that's not necessary for people to know. I think he basically got badly abused, essentially, Harvey Weinstein, even though he's also not a good guy. I think he was put on the stake of Me Too, and he's not a rapist. And anyway, what convinced me of this was this podcast. It's called the Harvey Weinstein Trial Unfiltered podcast or something.
Okay.
It's like a one-of-one thing. I don't think you're going to find a lot of examples of that, but it was a contemporaneous podcast that I found a couple of years later, once I was in my sort of anti-woke era. But it's these two reporters basically who were in the courtroom every day. At the end of the day, they had voice actors reenact parts of the court transcript from each day, and they would just go over and talk about the evidence. So that's what it's pulling from. And I was mind blown because I had just accepted that Harvey Weinstein was obviously a guilty, disgusting rapist and convicted properly, like, that. And even when I was in my anti-woke era,
reversed. Like he was found, his charges in New York weren't they found?
That was recently.
Yeah.
Recently, yes, which I think is good and correct. And there's a California charge that I think the same thing needs to happen with. But I still don't think he's out of the woods. But anyway, yeah, this podcast like really compelled me once I didn't know anything about the case either, once I found out. And this is where, and again, this is even after I had already come around to believe that Me Too went way too far and that a lot of men were like, but even then I still believed Harvey Weinstein was obviously that part was right and true and correct. But yeah, so for anyone who's listening is interested too, I really recommend that podcast. And yeah, that's like my bugaboo now, because it triggers people. Epstein's not a sex trafficker, or not a child sex trafficker, at least. And and Harvey Weinstein is not a rapist.
Yeah, I watch a lot of trials, and I have no idea like how so many people find people guilty all the time. I feel like people don't understand the presumption of innocence a lot of the time, and that like you have to start at not guilty and you have to be moved all the way over to guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you have reasonable, rational doubts based on reason, like you're not supposed to convict people. I find it mind-blowing how people get convicted, honestly, on such thin evidence. It's all vibes. But so it terrifies me now that I see it, and now that I've watched so many trials. I'm just always like, there's some I could, but like most of them, and this is a selection bias too, probably, but like they almost all come back guilty, even when they shouldn't. So
no, I agree with you. And did you follow the Neil Gaiman accusations at all?
I didn't follow it too much, but I like read about it. But it seemed kind of like not a lot of these things none of it was like proven, right? It was all like he said.
None of it was proven, and it had a lot of shades of what's his name? The guy who was accused of being a cannibal.
Who was accused of being a cannibal?
The actor who got Me Too canceled for
supposedly a dead person?
He had these like affairs. I think he was married too. So he was having affairs with these like women. And he would say things like, I want to devour. Like he would say, there was like some kinky stuff that would get crossed over. But he was being called what is his fucking name? It was the guy from, it's going to bother me, but I don't want to distract myself by trying to look it up. But anyway, it was giving like shades of that. Like kink stuff going on that to like the outside observer when cut out of context, like... Mm-hmm. And when you're positioning the woman as a victim in this, right, like can look really crazy, especially when there's an age difference and all these things that play into it. Yeah. But the Neil Gaiman accusations were this. I find this whole thing so interesting because he was like outed by like a sort of an anti-woke journalist, and there were a lot of anti-woke people who were kind of people who would be skeptical of Me Too, who were kind of gobbling it up because Neil Gaiman is this like virtue signaling lefty artist. But I was skeptical of it. Yeah. When I just read, and I'm very skeptical basically of every public accusation of these things at this point. And I think I have very good reason to be, of course, but I was skeptical of it. And he just recently like came out, some Substacker went and did an investigation into it, put it out, and Neil Gaiman recently spoke out about it. And I believe him. He's claiming that he's innocent, basically, and that all of this has been taken out of context. Mm-hmm. And reading some of this investigative reporting of this Substack guy, it was incredible, like how much information they left out. Like they paint Neil in this Tortoise was the outlet, I guess, or news organization, or or literary organization that published this podcast, and they talk about this young woman who's being abused by him, the victim, one of the victims in this story, and she and her mom were basically dependent on Neil. They were like essentially homeless, and he was giving them a place to stay or like paying for a place for them to stay. And so it feeds this narrative of like he has all this power over people that they'll do whatever he wants because he like, and it turns out that like this is like these women are like from a wealthy family. Like the mom in this scenario is like she does like pottery for celebrity. Like it was just like they were like not like it was like and such a jarring thing like that right off the bat to be like so manipulated. But it's so interesting too because I'm just like I'm team Neil Gaiman, but it's so cringe because in Neil Gaiman's like post clearing himself and in this like Substack investigative article, they're woke, and so they're criticizing the Tortoise reporters for being anti-trans, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is making me so dizzy because it's like the roles are reversed in this case. It's a woke person who's being accused, and so it's very dizzying. But it's just another example, in my opinion, of why we need to be like super skeptical of all of these accusations.
And there's like a place to believe women. Like if a woman comes to a shelter or a crisis place and it was like I was raped, like you don't need to interrogate her about who she like what happened. You can just believe her when she is accessing services. Like at those points of contact, we don't need to vet what's true or not. Unless maybe somebody's like very obviously lying and has psychological problem, but like even that, right? Sure, but like when we're talking
when
about
your
like,
goal is reputational destruction,
right, especially of like people who are like notable, when there's incentives to lie, when there's like potential monetary gain or reputational damage incurred, like on a broad level, then yes, we can examine them, but like at certain places and at certain like contact points for women, no, like 100%, yes, we can believe women. Your doctor should believe you. Places where you might be accessing certain types of social services, if you're in a difficult position, that they can believe you. But like when we're talking about like the accusation against somebody specifically, no, we have to like those kinds of claims and accusations need to be taken, I don't know, critically. And like,
Zero Fucks just said believe all evidence. And like right, exactly. It's like we should believe women who have evidence that they were victims of a crime, like and that's the problem too, is like with the Harvey Weinstein example, not only was there none of this evidence of going to a shelter or a doctor or whatever, the evidence to the contrary is overwhelming, right? And so it's not right. She was telling people multiple independent people in her life about how much she cared about him and how, and in a weird way too, that he was kind of this father figure, but they had this sexual whatever. It's all weird, but it all
sounds like the 90s
direction. It all stacks in the opposite direction, and that's another thing that I've thought about a lot. That a lot of women get uncomfortable with, but like even so, there's the cynical people who want money and all this stuff, whatever. Like I kind of put Pixie into that category. Like I think with the Pixie and Destiny thing, like I think Pixie probably was scarred for all these people being able to see her naked. Although my understanding is she wasn't necessarily identifiable until she really identified herself. But all that being said, I think it was very cynical what she did.
And suicide as leverage, and like people who use suicide as leverage should fucking it's the. I don't know if you've had a suicidal or had somebody in your life who's threatened suicide as a way to get leverage over you. It is the most sick fuck thing you can do.
I've seen it happen to people near me.
Nothing for it. Like go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. You're gonna tell me you're gonna threaten you're gonna kill yourself? Go do it. Like don't come to me and threaten me with a good time.
No, totally. And then also, again, to me, the evidence just stacks against her, which is like you were an adult exchanging naked in a relationship, exchanging naked pictures with another like you were in a group of people who exchange naked pictures around, like, yeah, and you know that he didn't maliciously expose it to the world, you know, like, so yes, there's all that, but but even if so there's the people who are cynical and are doing it for financial exploitation or whatever, or fame or attention. And then there's the people who I think a lot of people maybe fall into this category, where they rewrite it. They think about it differently later. They come to regret it maybe, or even they come to see it as predatory. And maybe it was. That's the thing, is like, you can consent to predatory things, and lots of women do, especially if there could be, if there could be some type of advantage that you see in it, you know, to advance your career or whatever. So you can consent to dangerous things, to things that are wrong and perverted and gross and whatever, and still consent to them. And I think that the thing that hit me or resonates so strongly with me about this, because I remember during the Me Too time, I rewrote a sexual encounter that I had, not as rape, and I never claimed that it was, but I rewrote it really negatively. Like, it felt really, really wrong, because I really didn't want to have sex with this person. But I fully and totally consented at the time.
Yeah.
I basically thought I wasn't being like held against my will. I was being pressured in the sense of like, I knew that he really wanted to, you know what I mean? And like, whatever. And like, he's telling me that he wants to, but like, I basically saw it as like the easiest way to get out of the situation was just like, you know, quickly have sex and whatever, and it can be done.
And
I really started to think about it differently during the Me Too era. And I'm so glad that I moved on from that. But the point being, so even if you later come to see that, to view it as rape, let's say, maybe you come to believe that I wasn't in my right mind at the time or whatever. What matters is his perception of it too. So even if in your mind you're thinking, I'm terrified, I don't want to do this, I hate this, get me out of here. If you are saying to him, it's okay, like, yes, and you go and you right, that is what fucking matters. And like, that needs to be made clear to women too. And that's not nice or fair. And by the way, that women are going to get themselves into sexual situations, maybe because I didn't fear violence from this person, but maybe because they fear that they're gonna, you know, whatever. So they're going to be all these unfair situations. But if the guy has the perception that you are consenting to it, that's it. It really doesn't matter how you feel. You should get a therapist and talk. And I'm being like, I'm being flippant, but I mean it.
Real.
Like, it can impact you. You should work through that. Yeah, right. But that's not a crime. And you can't, like, we cannot hold men to that type of standard.
No, they cannot be.
We shouldn't hold anyone to that.
Unless you've been threatened with violence.
Right.
In which case, the words that you say after, like, are not actually consensual, right? So we could make sure we have caveats for that. But yes, like, you can't be being in an uncomfortable situation and agreeing to have sex that you kind of wish you didn't have or didn't want to have, but did it anyways. I think people get so upset about this and get so enraged with this is because they betrayed themselves more than anything.
Yes.
And they can't reckon with the fact that they are complicit in their own dehumanization, because they did not have the fortitude or the bravery or the courage or whatever it was at that moment to, like, say no. And then so they put it on somebody else because it's not something that they know how to deal with for themselves. But, like, here's the thing, like, and also, I'm a bit older than you, right? So I grew up in a time where, like, nobody asked to, like, kiss you or hold you, like,
they just shot their shot.
It gives me the ick to think about somebody asking to kiss me. That would be so. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to ask. Like, I don't know how to say that. Like, that's like a very big turnoff. And some kids now, it's like many steps of, like, checking and consent all the time. It's like hyper, I don't know, like overly communicative, if you will. But like, a lot of the times this was very common. It didn't make it necessarily okay. Maybe it wasn't okay that, like, girls weren't taught how to
doesn't make it good, doesn't make it fair. Yeah.
But that doesn't make the men or the young, I don't say boys, but like young men and men. It doesn't make them predators or rapists or sexual assaulters or any of those things, or even manipulative, especially if they're not getting the clear messaging. And that's not to say that none of them are. I'm sure some of them they're awful, because like any segment of the population, some people are just fucking terrible. But but just because we had a whole generation of girls who grew up hypersexual lives without any sexual negotiation skills doesn't mean that all the men who had sex with them are now, rapists.
It's also like quite a flip. Even just it really happened so quickly, because I remember when like the big thing with millennials was like all these millennials are just like getting choked during sex, like, and the blame was put on porn, basically. And like there's truth, there is like totally truth to that. Like, like I had access to porn as a young person, right? So you're like seeing sex. If you're looking for it, if you're watching it, you're like seeing sex before you're ever having sex and all of that and whatever. And so I remember like people talking about this, like everyone's getting choked, and like women are kind of obviously some women do like that, but it was being talked about because it was like women were like pretending that they liked it, and like, and even the men I think felt expected to do it, and there were some cases where like neither of them even wanted to, but so this was like the talk. So there's this sort of like non-explicitly consensual choking, and then like next thing you know, it's like the very next generation, right? It's like they're barely talking to each other in person. They need like this explicit handwritten consent for any level of intimate engagement. That feels like really whiplash. Like I don't know, I still come from a promiscuous generation. I feel like the millennials were out there having sex and doing drugs and drinking, and in a way that really changed very rapidly.
Yeah, I'm like technically a millennial, but I grew up with like also like some like of the youngest Gen Xers too. You know what I mean? So like it kind of like intermingled, and that generation was very like rock and roll punk rock. You know what I mean? Like very fucking anti-authoritarian. So I feel like kind of somewhat in between those two, like as a fit, if you will. But yes, like definitely a very different, like, I'm very glad I grew up and learned how to be near people and talk to people and hang out with people and like get out of the house and do shit. Like my kids can stay home sometimes and like hang out and like, I'll call them being potatoes. You know what I mean? They're not doing it much. And okay, but like I could not wait to get out. Like every moment
out of the house, every single day.
Out of the house. Like from the moment I could get out to as late as I could come back. Do you know
could stay out exactly right after school? Go me and the friends, right? We're walking over to the pizza place, starting in middle school. Literally, like we would go to the pizza place across the middle school, and then we're gonna go to the park. We're gonna go to someone's house, all hang out together. We're gonna go to the mall or something. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. We went hung out certain places. All I had to do is like make sure you had $5 so I could get a fucking pack of cigarettes, and like we just like sit down, watch like the guys go skateboarding.
Now
and, like,
you're really
maybe somebody would get a fucking 40
$5.
and like drink on the sidewalk. Yes, they were very, very cheap for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it was fun, but I wasn't going home. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and now
certainly not without friends. Yeah.
And we traveled in packs. It was kind of nice,
Yes.
And it's not that I was like still a fucking weirdo teenager, I mean, I'm so strange now, and I was very strange back then too. But like, I had some other weirdo friends, so it was good. I hate to think what I would be like without that type of socialization.
Yeah.
So I kind of worry about this generation a little.
No, me too. Chipingo, how old are you? I can't quite gauge your age, but
the other day I learned that I am older than Ryan, and I thought just I guess I thought like where he is in life that he was older than me, and then I just felt my own feelings, but that's fine. But it's okay.
Yeah,
it's almost 40. He says.
Yeah, no shade to Connor, but I'm always shocked how close an age I am to Connor. He also just like feels older to me than he is.
Connor says he's like pushing 40. He constantly talks about pushing 40. You're not pushing 40.
I thought he was like his mid-30s.
I don't know. He always says close to 40.
Okay.
But I think he's like later 30. I think he's like 38 or 39.
Okay.
He's I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'm kind of wrong. But okay. Anyway, my cue when I have to go is when it becomes pitch black in the room. That's because I just use natural light. So that's when the natural light has gone away.
Yeah, it's okay. It's 11 o'clock here, so
okay, so you should too. But this was great. Thank God we're back.
Yes.
As my famous last words, let's do this again very soon. But hopefully at the very least we'll do this like a week from now, if not sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm around next week. Let me know. Your work schedule is crazy, so get at me and we'll figure something out. And thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and hopefully we will be back soon.
All
right,
cool. All right, thanks guys.
See you later.